Hey everyone, that guy Joe here, and I'm going to go over with you the Tembo Tusk Skottle. Now, it's a cooking device similar to a discata or a shallow wok. Now for the base price, what you get is what you see right here in front of you. 3 29-inch legs. They're just powder coated 1-inch steel pipe. And this cooking plate. I believe the cooking plate here is made out of a carbon steel. They tell you to treat it the same way you'd treat cast iron. It's about 18 inches wide with about 1 5/8 dish to it. And the legs simply go into the bottom here. So that's the base price, what you get. If you want the carrying case, which that's made by Blue Ridge Overland Gear, and the Coleman stove, you have to buy those separate. The Coleman stove is what they recommend from Tembo Tusk. Normally what I do, I don't like using these 1-pound cylinders. I use a distribution tree and an extension hose. Coleman doesn't recommend doing that. They've got a nice little warning on the burner when you buy it not to use anything but a direct connection with a disposable cylinder. Alright, now let me get this set up. Alright, it's pretty easy to do. And just set these set screws, make sure there's tension on the leg. Now just set the stove in place. Light it and it's all ready to go. Alright, it's got these set screws here that can adjust the height of the burner, and it can go from where it's resting on this lip here to where it's snugged up pretty much right up against it. Now you want to leave a little bit of room for heat expansion, because when that metal gets hot it's going to swell just a little bit, and it's really going to put pressure on there if you have those snugged up tight. So I'm going to let this warm up here at the lowest position, and then we're going to check the temperature here on the bowl. Alright, I've had this on the lowest setting that will sustain flame for about 20 minutes now. So the cooking plate should be pretty well stabilized as far as temperature goes. And again, this is as low as that burner will possibly go, and the flame as low as it will go. Alright, now let's check the temperature on here. Right there in the center, we're getting in the 470s and easing out towards the edge, dropping as soon as we get to the edge of that hot spot, about 350. And then as soon as you get outside that, it drops real quick. You can see the laser pointer there just moving towards the edge. It's just dropping in temperature. And by the time you get to the outer edge there, it's just warm. And if I get in a little closer here, you can kind of see the hot spot there in the center. That's where all your cooking is going to happen. Everything outside of that is just going to be a warming surface. And so that hot spot is maybe 6 inches wide, 7 inches wide. And then as soon as you get outside of that, your temperature, you can still do some light cooking there. And this outer section here is really mainly for warming. A little bit of a misconception there with an 18-inch wide disc. you'd think you'd have a little bit more food capacity as far as cooking, but where you've got that really small pointed hot spot, the amount of food you can cook at one time is going to be limited. So the kind of things this would be good for cooking would be things that require moving in and out of the heat. So like a wok, where you're constantly stirring food around, and the guy from Tembo Tusk has said it's an active cooking style. So if you're always fiddling with your food, shifting it around, this might be a really good cooking device for you when you're camping or overlanding or whatnot. Things I've had the most success cooking on it have been like fried rice and other similar type Asian dishes that would normally be cooked on a wok, again, that are constantly being shifted around in the heat. Things I've not had so much luck with cooking on them have been more traditional items like hamburger, where you want to leave them on the heat. So for example, a steak or a hamburger, you can only cook one or two at a time depending on the size, and then you've got to shift them out of the heat. Just keep that in mind when you're looking at this, that you don't have an 18-inch cooking surface. It's going to be closer to 6 or 7. Alright, now I'm going to move the burner up as far as it'll go, but I'm going to leave the temperature down at the lowest setting. Alright, we've been heat soaking for about 20 minutes or so now, with the burner again on its lowest setting, but the burner height closest to the cooking plate. Alright, so now let's do a temperature check. And we're at about 545 there in the center. And as you get a little bit closer to the outer edge, where the flame's actually hitting the plate, it gets a little bit hotter and then starts to drop back down. And right here at the edge of that heat ring, and then quickly dropping outside. And we're at the mid 100 to 150-ish, there near the outer edge. Alright, I've got this on setting one notch above the lowest. So if I click this down one, that's as low as it'll go without shutting off. And I've dropped the burner back down to the lowest height it'll go to. I haven't had it heat soaking quite as long this time, maybe 5 minutes or so. We're already over 700 degrees right there in the center. And as soon as we get to the outside edge again, the temperature drops real quick. And we're almost getting close to 200 degrees on the outer edge there, so you could almost do some cooking there. Alright, there's everything all bagged up. I've shown you 3 of the lowest settings on the Skottle. Give you a basic idea on how this thing cooks. Just because it's got an 18-inch disc doesn't mean you're going to get that big of a cooking surface. To be fair, Tembo Tusk doesn't advertise it that way. They describe it the way that it is. You've got an inner heating and cooking area, and the outer section is meant for warming. I was just a bit surprised at how small that cooking surface actually is. It's not much bigger, if any bigger, than the burner underneath it. But that just goes to show you how bad of a conductor steel really is. The only other real issue is the height of it. It sits about 29 inches tall, which I'm sure Tembo Tusk did that to keep the legs more compact, make them easier to pack away with all your gear when you're getting ready to go camping or overlanding or whatever adventure you might be headed out on. Now the height would be easy to fix with some 3-foot pipe or tubing, but that's going to complicate where you're able to store them, and while 7 inches may not sound like a whole lot, it can make a big difference when you're trying to
to store these in your vehicle.
So if this works for you, it's going to come down to your personal cooking style and preferences. I hope this video's helped you decide if the Tembo Tusk will meet your camping or overlanding needs. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.